Mindstate Marketing Hour with some new vibes. Will, how are you, brother? We're live.
You caught me off guard with the new vibe. I'm used to the ducks, the walking ducks. This was a new one for us. All right.
Man, you came in, you were like, I had to pull your brain from wherever it's been because this is the best time of the week for me.
All right. Well, it's a good time for me as well. So, hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Good to have you.
All the listeners, this is their favorite time. It's a time that we get to hang out with Will. This is called the Mindstate Marketing Hour, right? Brother, this is going to be a good show. Let's do a little roll in. How about that?
You got it.
The Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. He's our favorite scientist. Today we're talking about building trust and credibility in your marketing with social proof. What's the backstory on this? He's got some jams. He's got a rhythm. You just don't see yourself that way, do you?
I don't. You're making me feel young again, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. If I only knew what that song was. But hey, good to see everybody. So, I don't really have a backstory on social proof, except that I do know that we use these, we call them heuristics, but we use these shortcuts a lot in marketing. Some are called loss aversion, some are called social proof. And it dawned on me just before I started thinking about this show was how often social proof is used. I'm going to tell you all about social proof if you've never heard of that topic before. But what I also it dawned on me was that we tend as marketers to use only one form of social proof. And there are actually at least 5. So I'm going to talk about the most commonly used one that we all probably know a lot more about. But then I'm going to also talk about some other uses of social proof that you may not even know you have, but you probably do. And you should be integrating into your marketing.
So there's no backstory on this. Something didn't just happen this past week and you thought, oh my gosh.
Not at all. Not this time. There's no cool story behind it, except for I do know that social proof, when we talk about social proof and loss aversion, there are so many people out there that their ears perk up because like, oh, I know that word. I want to use that. So that's really kind of why I want to talk about that. Maybe I'll do loss aversion here in the next couple of weeks.
I'm working on a presentation, and part of my presentation covers social proof, just per se. Yeah. So, we have these shortcuts our mind wants to take because we can't evaluate every little single piece of information. And so we need shortcuts. So our brains go to places that help us go, okay, good. If that many people have started, gave it this rating, then that saves me time investigating and doing that part. So I got that down. Now I can go to the next piece. Does it fit in my situation? So that's cool. I was addressing it in how we use Google reviews.
Yeah.
Okay. So we look at reviews and there's a lot of upside on those, but you can't, I laugh. There's a sign outside of a barbecue joint, and somewhere down Texas, I drive through town, and it says, "A million flies can't be wrong."
That's social proof, I guess. Yeah. That's the 6th use of social proof I haven't heard. That's a good one. I like it. Oh,
so what is social proof and why does it matter, mad scientist Will?
Yeah, guys, so social proof, it really what it is it is a way, a shortcut, just as Steve had said, that we use because we look for other people's guidance in making decisions and behaviors and how to think, et cetera. Because it takes a lot of effort to make decisions. It really does. Sometimes we don't have all the information we need. Sometimes we don't feel like we know how to evaluate the information. Sometimes we just don't have the time. So what do? We use these shortcuts. Now, one of them is called social proof. Social proof is the shortcut. I talk about it in my book, Marketing Mindstates. It is that we value behaviors, attitudes, beliefs. We value those same beliefs and attitudes and all those behaviors that others take a lot. So we overvalue what other people do because it just makes it easier for us to make a decision. So if I know, just like you said, 10,000 flies can't be wrong, that's an easy shortcut. If I know from McDonald's, remember they used to the very top of McDonald's, billions, it used to be like, I forget, when I was growing up, it wasn't billions served, but it was like millions and millions of burgers served. And they got to be billions of served. That is nothing more than a shortcut that when you see something like that, it gives you reassurance that you're making a good choice. The thing to know about social proof, guys, is that these aren't really conscious oftentimes. Sometimes it is, like if you go to Amazon and you're looking at a review and you're actively looking for how many 5-star reviews, that's conscious social proof. That's awesome. But you would be so surprised how many times social proof is hitting you. And I'm going to tell you a couple of these things today, how it's hitting you or how marketers are using it and you don't even realize it. But ultimately what it's doing is giving you assurance. It's giving you confidence that you're making the right decision. Why? Because so many other people have made the same decision.
By the way, Will, I forgot to mention that the Mindstate Marketing Hour is the #1 rated behavioral science podcast.
I see where you're going there. That's a little form of social proof. I like that. See, you guys, it comes from anywhere. You can use social proof.
Left hook, social proof. Boom.
That's right. So, what are the different types of social proof? Okay. I'm going to give you the top 5, and there could be a couple that I'm not really sure of, or that don't come to mind. But I wrote down 5. Now, the first one is what we call wisdom of the crowd social proof, and that's kind of what Steve you just said. 10,000 flies can't be wrong.
1 million.
Millions and millions of people served. So, wisdom of the crowd social proof is when you use numbers, statistics, percentages, things like this of the number of people that are making this same decision as you want to make. And what we do is we look at that metric and we go, oh my gosh, if tens of millions of people have made this decision, if 40% of people have made this decision, or 60% of people have made this decision, that's probably a safe choice as well. So think about these social proofs. This is the one we use most often. It's when you say, this is the number of customers we've served. It's a really good use of social proof. But another one would be how many users we have on our platform, how many subscribers subscribe to us, how many followers and fans. That's a great form of social proof, is when you look at somebody and you see that they have thousands and tens of thousands of followers. We presume that that person had made a good decision in whatever it is that they're talking about. Downloads is a good way. It doesn't always have to be people. It can be downloads. So it could be 150,000 people have downloaded the Mindstate Marketing Hour. That is a form of social proof, right? It could be views, the number of views on your videos, the number of shares, the number of likes. So it doesn't always have to be people, but you do want to represent either a large number or a large percentage of action. And that is a form of social proof called wisdom of the crowd. It's the most commonly used one that we use today.
Speaking of, all these conversations spin around a little book called Marketing the Mindstate, which have hundreds and thousands of books and copies have been sold. And if you don't have one, then you're in the dark. You're writing one size fits all messaging. Marketing the Mindstate. Get it at Amazon. Get it all the popular places that it's bought.
Another social proof, right? Popular places. Buy my book, so should you. Steve, you're full of this stuff. You didn't realize, maybe you did realize you were using social proof. You're using it a lot today in different ways. I like it.
Oh, shucks. But back to the program. What are other types of social proof there?
Yeah, so the number 2, and these are in no order after this, but the second one that I want to talk about is what we call user-generated social proof. Now, this is actually what you just said, Steve. It's the 5-star reviews. So user-generated social proof is when you have reviews that you can talk about. It's not the number of reviews. It is the actual reviews themselves. That's a form of social proof. When somebody gives you a positive review, you can use that to your advantage. It's a way of making a shortcut decision for somebody, right? You can use ratings. So 5-star ratings, great. Testimonials are great forms of user-generated social proof. It's somebody speaking on your behalf that you don't even really know. That's oftentimes the best way to use, or that's why it's called user-generated. Another form of that would be case studies, user-generated content. When somebody takes your content and kind of sends it to other people, things like that. Referrals, word of mouth. So all these small little things that you may think of as being, okay, well, of course we should all use word of mouth. The why behind word of mouth advertising is social proof. That's a psychological reason why word of mouth matters and why it works. It's the reason why testimonials and case studies work. the behind the scenes, it's helping your clients make faster, easier decisions.
We got an excellent question here. Speaking of social proof, Bill's what do you call a faithful listener, right? So
Yeah, he sure is.
these are great questions. What's the percentage of the decision making comes from social proof?
Yeah, I don't know if there's actually a percentage that anyone would ever know, um, because it probably matters by category, right? So one of the forms of social proof we'll talk about is expert social proof or authority. So, Bill, let's say if you are in the field of high technology, medical, something like that, you're in your case, it's a really big decision, technology, medical issues. So that in that case, you probably rely more on social proof than other times, especially because you just have no concept. Like in the medical industry, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a surgeon, I don't know anything about the medical community. So in that case, social proof means a lot more to me because I don't have time to go read medical journals to figure out if my doctor is making the good call. What I do know is that this doctor has been recommended and he has accreditation from the American Medical Association, et cetera. So unfortunately, there's not really a percentage I can give you. I will say that at least in the user generated social proof and the wisdom of the crowd social proof, the going thing is to try to signal a majority of people. It's important. So you can say 200 people, and you may say, "What's the right number?" 200 people doesn't feel very big to a lot of people. So what you have to do is think about when you use those types of social proof, you think about the majority. The majority of people trust us, and so that's about as good a guidance as I can give you.
I imagine a large percentage of the work or lift, persuasion lift, is done with social proof because before folks
100%.
ever come and approach you, Will, they've already done an investigation process that you've already been put on a short list. And
Mhm.
most of that lift is handled by social proof and testimonials,
Yeah.
etc.
That's a great point, right? Because behavioral science is not a topic that many people know about. And like I say in my book, you don't need to become a PhD in cognitive psychology to learn these principles. And so what do? You learn from somebody who has done the work. That's actually a great point. So I
Hmm.
may be one of those categories where social proof matters a lot.
Yeah,
Matters a lot. That's a good point.
I would agree. So, what are some of the pitfalls when using social proof in advertising?
Yeah, I'll tell you some of the pitfalls. There are three that kind of came to mind. The first one is not having enough social proof. So the problem is some people want to use social proof, whether it's a celebrity endorsement or whether it's wisdom of your friends, social proof. There's all these different types, right? But for social proof to work, you need to have enough. That's where I was going with Bill's comment. Let's say if you're just starting out and you want to use case studies, right? Because in your industry, case studies matter. And so you say, okay, well, I've got this one great case study. If you only have one case study, it's hard for you to use that for social proof. It can be used for other things, it can be used for like reassuring somebody. But the problem with not having enough, if you only have one case study and you're trying to talk to a whole bunch of different people and you only focus on one case study, it doesn't feel very credible. So too few views, too few social shares. So if you say 10 people have bought my book, that doesn't feel very comfortable, or, I've had 200 shares of this article. To many people, that doesn't feel like a lot. So one of the biggest pitfalls is that you don't have enough social proof. Another one is when you use too much social proof. This actually happened to me. I'll never forget about it. It was about 6 months ago. So I was looking at a training course and it was really well done. I think it was story branded, to be honest with you. It had a really good look and feel. But then about halfway through the landing page, they start doing testimonials, which I know isn't really important. Like I want to see testimonials. Oh, this is really successful. And so I look at testimonials like, okay, there's about 3, there's about 6. Steve, I'm not kidding you. I really am not kidding you when I tell you, I think that there were well over 200 testimonials and you just kept scrolling, but I kept waiting to I just want to go click more information. I want to learn more about the program. But it was just this massive landing page that somebody must have told this person social proof. And so I guess, and obviously it was very popular. But what happened was I got overwhelmed. I kept scrolling and I kept looking for, okay, I get it. People enjoy your course. I'm not kidding you. It could have been over 200. I mean, it would just kept going on and on and on and on. So much so that I finally kind of gave up. I was like, I can't figure out what the course is about anymore. I got overwhelmed with all the different people that were massive paragraphs and just one or two sentences. So having too much social proof is another thing that hurts you. And the third one is having social proof that doesn't fit with your brand. And so I'm doing a little bit of medical research right now, and this has nothing to do with my client, but it dawned on me that, let's say if I'm manufacturing medical equipment, some sort of robotic that helps with surgery, um, and then so I these are big purchases. Clinics and massive hospitals have to buy these robotics, and what if you're and then you have this website up, you have your salesperson ready, you're selling, you're talking about all the dynamics of this robot, and then you say, and by the way, we have 4,000 social media followers. Like, that doesn't feel good if I'm buying medical equipment to use the wrong social proof. So be careful. All because you have 4,000 social media people that are following, or social media followers, doesn't mean anything for a purchase for medical equipment or whatever. So make sure that the social proof you have kind of fits, with the brand. If you're an author, I'm making it up again. If you're an author and you're selling a textbook, it doesn't matter that that a social media influencer also follows you. Like, that doesn't matter. So you can say, oh, Logan Paul, or maybe it's Paul Logan. I should know this. But Logan Paul, he once liked, a comment I had. That means nothing. So be careful about using social proof that doesn't really fit with your brand or what you're trying to communicate, because then it's just kind of noise.
I think there's a point where a brand gets too popular, and it's like we want to be in a tribe of folks that are like us.
Mhm,
Okay, but you can't have everybody in that tribe. And so I
mhm.
think there's an opportunity when something is too popular that there's a pushback. People want to reject the way everybody's going and kind of single into an area where I have a little bit of personality, a little bit of uniqueness
Yeah.
with my self identity. I remember back in the day, you remember Polo was like a real popular
Oh,
brand, right?
man, I know. Yeah. If only I
And
could afford those shirts. Those are
right.
awesome. Sure.
And I remember I was just a pimply faced high school kid, but at one point I remember, you know what? I'm going to be crazy and I'm just going to say, I don't want to wear polo.
Wow. Yeah. That's a big deal. Like,
So
so,
I think, I think
well,
that's, go
yeah, I
ahead.
was gonna say, I never thought of it that way. So I was listening to an interview of Metallica, and it was on the Howard Stern show. I love when this guy just interviews really, really well. And what he was talking about was during the 90s, when Metallica was kind of this band that was outside of mainstream. Because back then, this was kind of when the hair bands were out there and the guys were wearing spandex. And they were talking about their producers were really pushing hard because that's where the money was to be made back in the early, late 80s, early 90s. But Metallica's actually management said, no, we're not going to do it, because they saw value in being not like all the other bands, not like all the other bands. And then, of course, the grunge movement came in probably 89, well, no, 1990, really, 1990 into 91. And then all of a sudden, as the grunge movement came in, all the music out of Seattle came, then all of a sudden those hair bands started looking ridiculous.
Hmm.
Um, but the popularity of grunge, and Metallica got kind of pulled into the grunge movement in a way. But what happened was, all of a sudden they were being seen as insiders, where otherwise they were always outsiders. So they were really important and big to a very few number of people pre-grunge. Then when grunge came, and then all of a sudden, they started kind of being part of that movement. They expand a lot. And they sold millions of albums, so it's not like it was a bad thing. But they were talking about, we lost a bit of our identity because all of a sudden we were the in group, and we were never in the mainstream. But all of a sudden the mainstream came to us. They didn't go to the mainstream. They didn't soften their music. The mainstream came to them. And so, and not to say that they made any kind of mistake, because obviously they're multi-platinum and they're going to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if they're not already there. But what you said is important. That is a way of, if too many people are using your brand, you can run yourself into a situation where maybe you're not that innovative.
Yeah. This is a great little thing of social proofing happening in your case with a listener here on LinkedIn. Thanks, Amir, for your comment. It's excellent. I think what goes along with this, the rise of community and how it can help with social proof that Bill's talking about here, is y- social proof is important, but you need to have a real clear line in the sand of what you believe for it really to connect and attract and repel those that would be like a poor fit in your brand, the identity that you're complementing their identity with. That community thing, I think, is, in my opinion, Bill, the rise of community, it is the future of what brands need to do. They need to be creating their own little community. And it's like we're used to seeing popular bands have fan clubs, right? We would expect, I don't know, Will, maybe you were in the Hillary Duff fan club at one time, or but but
Yeah, that's
but
my
it's
favorite.
like I'm being facetious, but the brands, even small brands like you will, should have a community where folks can come in and kind of talk about the nerdy stuff that goes with behavioral science or whatever that brand should be.
Yeah, when I was over at Pepsi, and this is a hard thing for the big brands to do, by the way, it's to create a clear outgroup, people that they do not want to be identified with, and they almost actively push away. Now, the reason why they're doing that is because we can attract people who are brand lovers by talking about those that we don't serve. And so if you're a big brand, it's oftentimes really scary to hone in on a very specific target. Like you said, I'm only going to talk to these types of people who really understand, they want to get into behavioral science marketing, because that feels like we're limiting our group to being so small that we lose growth. And for the big brands out there, that is very scary, because they have to serve, we talk about market share on Frito-Lay products and potato chips. The share of market for a Frito-Lay product is bigger than toilet paper. So we have more people eat Frito-Lay snacks in the world than people use toilet paper. So it has very, very high share. And so it's very scary to say we're only going to stand for this small group. But what PepsiCo does really well, and a lot of other brands do this now too, is they realize that it's not the size of your group, right, Steve? It's the excitement that your group has and the passion they have for you.
Mhm.
And why that matters is that because you can have lots of fans, but only a tenth of people actually engage with you or buy products from you. So you're talking to another 90% of people that really, yeah, they know you or whatever, but they're not really actively engaged, they're not really buying from you. Or you could talk to that 10% of people, focus on those 10% of people, really create a small but very passionate tribe, and they will buy from you again and again and again. They'll buy more and more and more. So the big brands struggle with that. Smaller brands, it's a great thing to do. And Bill, the reason why I think that's so important is if you're a small brand and you start with that community first, once the community catches on, if it catches on, think Metallica, right? They did not go mainstream. Mainstream came to them. So if you're lucky enough where mainstream comes to you, then you already own that kind of mainstream audience, and then explodes, and they're going to identify with you. Behavioral science, I guess, is a way of thinking about it with what we do as Mindstate Marketing, right? I think that's a way of thinking about focus on Mindstate Marketing's behavioral science marketing. As that becomes more mainstream, which lots of books behind me tell me that they are, because every other month there's another book, another book, another book. Then as that becomes mainstream, your passionate fans, hopefully my passionate fans, will see me as an authority figure in that space. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
you might be even a old guy by then, eh?
Yeah. The wise wizard, right? That's why I got that wise wizard up there. Yeah. Maybe I'll be the wise wizard. That's
Excellent
great.
conversation. Anything you want to wrap up before we watch you dance a little bit?
No, 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 guys. The deal was that I wanted to communicate that there are different types of social proof. Don't think of it just as number of customers served. Think of it as, those people that endorse you. That is a form of social proof. Think of it as your friends. When your friends share your stuff, that is a form of social proof. There's so many different types of social proof. So don't just focus only on, like we said, the wisdom of the crowd, the numbers of people, because small businesses, you may not have tens of thousands of followers, but what you do have is maybe a case study or two. What you do have is maybe an expert who has accredited you. If you're certified in something, that is a form of social proof. So go through your thinking, go through all these contacts that you have, think about those social proof and use those where you need to, and you can build a lot more credibility and authority.
Well, I was thinking the other day when I was working on my presentation, these reviews, the Google My Business listing has this place that people can review you. They'll give you stars, they'll put in comments, but it started to hit me that the words that those reviewers use are actually, I believe, is the default place that Google first wants to like identify the keywords, where you put in what you think the keywords are that you think Google wants to
Mm,
hear. In the meantime, if someone's reviewing Will, man, this cat, he always is available. He really, speaks on my terms. You would never put that on your
yeah.
content. But then Google defers to that because that's what real people are putting in that's not influenced by you. And so it becomes a trust thing. So I think that social proof power, if you're trying to figure out what the message is that your audience wants to hear, go look at what they're saying about you. That's where your keyword power, and start to get real clarity on how you can connect more.
That's a great thought. Yeah, I like that. I never thought about it that way, but I don't disagree at all. That's cool.
Yeah. So, all right. Here's a little. You ready for this?
I'm ready.
That too fast to dance for you, all this little dancing nuts. Hear me?
Very little. You're very
Okay.
echoey.
I'm echoey.
Now you're good. Now you're good.
Okay. Well, it's interesting. I wonder if there's a little glitch going on with my studio here.
Huh.
Well,
Sounds
back to
good.
the show. Off of me, back to the show. How do I increase messaging breakthrough without a large ad budget?
Yeah. So breakthrough is one of the hardest things that we have to try to deal with today because there's so much advertising out there. So you're probably wondering, well, how do I get breakthrough without a big ad budget? If here's what I would tell you to do. Breakthrough comes from two ideas. One is you must capture somebody's attention, and you do that, you capture somebody's attention by speaking to people's goals. When you speak to somebody's aspirational goals, or if you kind of evoke a really strong emotion, you can do it that way too. But to capture somebody's attention, you want to speak to goals. But then the other side of breakthrough is maintaining attention. So breakthrough messaging is not good if you only get 2/10 of a second. You capture somebody's attention, they walk away. You got to maintain their attention. Maintaining attention means focusing on their core motivation, right? So when you speak to somebody's goals and motivations, then you will be able to create breakthrough messaging that not just captures their attention the first, 4 seconds, but it actually gives you another, 10, 20, 30 seconds of runway to kind of maintain their attention and really get your communications out.
I think about this as, all these people are trying to break through the noise. That's what they say. Okay, so imagine you're in a restaurant, everybody's talking, and then a waiter, a waitress drops a glass, and then everybody stops talking. They look around, and then they go back to what they were doing. That's breaking through the noise, but you're not capturing the attention. And if you don't have your message dialed in at the moment that you do have their attention, you lose them. They go back to exactly where they were.
That's why, guys, we talk about you can get breakthrough messaging by using sex. You absolutely can. You put a very, beautiful looking woman or a beautiful looking man or whatever, you can capture attention very quickly. Or, they have this idea called dissonance. You put like a head of a dog on top of a Lego, whatever. That will capture somebody's attention because your brain is always looking for something different. And that will give you breakthrough messaging. The problem with that is that that's all you get. It's just, I love that glass analogy. I'm going to use that in my next book. It's the breaking of the glass. You grab people's attention, and then people go back to their conversation. That's not good for marketing. And you may get a click. You may get, a click rate on your email, but you don't get any kind of conversion. It's because all you did was grab their attention. You didn't maintain their attention.
Excellent. Here's another one. What is the biggest mistake you see brands make in their positioning?
Yep. I especially in the last 5 years, I think the biggest mistake that brands make in their positioning is that they are trying to reposition themselves around only maybe a value that they have. Maybe it's environmentalism value, or maybe it's nationalism or freedom, or they have these values. They've gone and they've talked to their customers, or maybe they've even talked to their customers and they just say, we value equity, or we value patriotism, or whatever. So they'll build positioning around that only, or they may be a belief. They'll use a belief. And we see this a lot with people who do brand story, and people who do consulting in this space, is that what they're trying to do is make sure that the brand exists around a core belief. And hopefully that core belief is important enough to enough customers to buy products. The problem with that, and we talk about this in behavioral science all the time, that belief systems change quite a bit based on how you're feeling in the moment. So beliefs, attitudes, wants, needs, desires, those things change. What doesn't change, or rarely does it change, are your aspirational goals. So the biggest mistake I think brands do when they're positioning is they don't bring in their customers' aspirational goals. They don't bring in their customer at all. They go, we believe in da 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 da. And that's interesting for you. But if you're not speaking to the aspirational goals of your customers, so I can, this brand's going to help me become a better father. This brand's going to help me become a smarter business person, whatever that aspirational goal is, then you may, be kind of lumped in with a great value, but those values are fleeting. They come and go. Aspirational goals don't. So bring in your customer's voice, and especially bring in what their aspirational goal is. You position around that, you're going to grab and maintain attention, and you're going to have a much stronger positioning.
Will, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
All right. That was excellent. I like how you tied that to the aspirational goals. I think of positioning as like where you show up, but if you're not connecting with how they see themselves in their story, then it's lost. It's tone deaf. There's a famous beer brand right now suffering from tone deafness, right?
That's exactly right. I think you're right. They spoke about themselves as opposed to knowing their customers and what their customers' aspirational goals, whether you like it or not. That's what happened. And the reason why this actually comes up is I'm working with a brand right now that we're going to do some testing on their positioning or territories, and everyone in the territories talked about themselves the entire time. And one of the positioning territories talked about their competitor. They're trying to create a positioning against a competitor. And I just made the simple thing, like, not one time have I seen anything about your customers in these positioning territories. You would have thought like I threw a bomb in there, but I was like, if you're not positioning around your customers' desires, or your customers' goals, or just nothing around your customers, if you don't know that, then you run a real risk of alienating your customer.
All right. Somebody wants to write a book with you called Sales for Mind States.
If somebody could just do that work for me, that would be awesome.
It's not far from Marketing to Mind States. Marketing to Mind States. By the way, there's a Mindstate Masterclass. Will, if you've been listening, you need someone to look over your shoulder, give you some input. There's a Mindstate Masterclass. Will, tell us about it.
That is, the Mindstate Masterclass is a do-it-yourself course where you use the time that you have to really hone your chops around Mindstate marketing. Through this course, it's all digital based, and what you're able to do is actually run through all the key elements of my book, but in much more depth. And we're going to focus on a case study of a brand and showing you how we built this brand from the bottom up using Mindstate marketing. So you can learn more about that at mindstategroup.com.
Mindstategroup.com. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour, how to use science to connect with your clients, based on Will's book, Marketing to Mind States. Who am I? I'm just the guide. I'm just the donkey to Will's Shrek.
Donkey's an important character.
Yeah.
Donkey's a good sidekick.
So one more thing. We got a great guest next week. We're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and writing content and how that all weaves into that. Thanks for everyone's comments out there.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
LinkedIn land. We'll see you next week as we end this.